Dober dan, spoštovane, a lahko maj neha, prosim. Dober dan, spoštovane gospe in gospodje. Začenjamo z letošnjo zadnjo novinarsko konferenco. Gostje še prihajajo, ampak da vas ne pustimo čakati, sem se odločil, da začnemo najprej s kratkim pregledom, kaj se je letos vse zgodilo. Potem bo gospod Jani Ivan Novak predstavil koncert skupine Laibach, ki bo 7. septembra. Vmes pa seveda pričakujemo naše goste, tako iz Orkestra Slovenske filharmonije kot Kraljevega orkestra Koncertgebau, ki so tukaj tudi navedeni za to mizo, da bodo predstavili svoj program. In v tretjem delu bom predstavil vsa ozadja in vse, kar se je dogajalo in se še dogaja in se bo dogajalo v zvezi z streho v Križankah. Moram reči, da sem izjemno zadovoljen z potekom letošnjega festivala, da smo kljub temu, da smo zamujali z deli skoraj za 3 mesece, junij, julij, avgust, tako je, 3 mesece, in da smo morali prestaviti večino prireditev, ki so bila predvidena za Križanke, na druge lokacije, izvedli vse te prireditve, tudi pod milim nebom, in da zaradi tega ni odpadla nobena prireditev. To mislim, da je najpomembneje. Tukaj se zahvaljujem tako vam za sprotno poročanje, kakor seveda svojim sodelavcem za izjemne napore, tudi nastopajočim in seveda publiki za razumevanje. Publika je ravno tako prihajala na prireditve, tudi če so bile na drugih lokacijah. Bilo je skoraj največ nastopajočih do sedaj, več kot 4000, skoraj 40 držav. Proračun zaenkrat kaže na 3 milijone 100 tisoč evrov, torej za teh 10 tednov prireditev. Naj povem, da je mestna občina za to prispevala 2 milijona evrov, ostalo so seveda sponzorji in pa tudi vstopnina. Seveda festival pokriva tudi delo honorarnih sodelavcev in pa seveda tudi del plač in ostalih stroškov tudi v določenem deležu sam. Zato bomo imeli končne cifre lahko šele na koncu leta, ko bomo predstavili tako rezultat, ki se bo vrtel tam okoli 5 milijonov evrov, predvidevam. Toliko. Mogoče še to povem, da bo nadomestna predstava Fausta 10. septembra v Drami. Predstava je razprodana in da seveda vsi z veseljem pričakujemo še zadnje 3 dogodke, torej današnji uradni zaključek in pa koncert Slovenske filharmonije in pa seveda skupina Laibach. Zdaj pa prosim gospoda Novaka, da kar predstavi to, kar bomo 7. septembra videli tukaj v Križankah. Prosim.
Hvala. Hvala za povabilo še enkrat na festival. Za nas je vedno izziv delati z simfoničnimi in filharmoničnimi orkestri, zato se pač trudimo po svojih močeh, da to seveda naredimo čim boljše. Tokrat bomo sodelovali z Lvovskim filharmoničnim orkestrom. Do sodelovanja pa je prišlo na povabilo Adam Mickiewicz instituta, Poljskega instituta, ki pač spremlja naše dolgoletno koncertno udejstvovanje na Poljskem. Mi smo na Poljskem igrali prvič že leta 1983, 6 koncertov na naši čisto prvi turneji, ki smo jo takrat še imenovali, oziroma še vedno jo tako imenujemo, turneja po okupirani Evropi. Skratka, skozi leta je prišlo do tega povabila Poljskega inštituta Adam Mickiewicz, ki je nekakšne poljska verzija Goethe inštituta. In sicer so nas povabili, da obdelamo, da predelamo, da po svoje, da se skratka, da naredimo interpretacijo znamenite simfonije poljskega skladatelja Ondřeja Panufnika, Simfonija Sacra, ki temelji na poljski srednjeveški oziroma prastari himni Bogorodici. V tej kombinaciji, v sodelovanju z nami, v to kombinacijo je vstopil tudi Lvovski filharmonični orkester zaradi mednarodnega sodelovanja in pa dirigent Filip Ratej iz Belgije. Pripravili smo skratka svojo interpretacijo simfonije Sacre, ki smo jo poimenovali Polonija. Videli boste, da je to precej svobodna interpretacija, dodali smo precej elementov, ki jih v originalni kompoziciji ni. Poleg tega pa mi smo prvič skratka Polonijo predstavili že v Lublinu pred parimi meseci. V Križankah pa bomo premierno izvajali tudi našo simfonično predelavo našega albuma Also sprach Zarathustra. Skratka, to bo premierna izvedba in pa tudi še nekatere druge stvari, ki jih nismo še prej nikoli igrali. Skratka, gre kar za nekaj premiernih stvari, sploh pa seveda v sodelovanju z filharmoničnim orkestrom. Marko, zdravo.
Zdravo, servus, Živijo.
Še kaj?
Ne vem, a je še kaj? Kaj bi mogel?
Mogoče kakšna vprašanja za gospoda Novaka? Preden nadaljujemo z Slovensko filharmonijo. Zaenkrat ne, mogoče proti koncu novinarske konference. Toplo pozdravljam med nami gospoda Klemna Hvalo, ki je umetniški vodja Slovenske filharmonije, in pa gospoda Marka Letonjo, dirigenta, ki ga vsi dobro poznate, in me veseli, da ponovno seveda se srečamo tukaj v Križankah in pa prav gotovo je tudi orkester vesel, da so spet skupaj. Klemen, mogoče najprej ti. Izvoli.
Lep pozdrav sem skupaj. Marko. Torej, Slovenska filharmonija svojo častitljivo zgodovino in tradicijo, začenši leta 1701 z ustanovitvijo Akademije Philharmonicorum, ki se kasneje preoblikovala v Filharmonično družbo, in leta 1908 s prvo slovensko filharmonijo, nato pa leta 1948 s povojno slovensko filharmonijo beleži torej v letošnjem letu 70 let neprekinjenega in zelo uspešnega delovanja. Tudi to je bil eden od vzgibov za to, da k sodelovanju ponovno povabimo našega nekdanjega šefa dirigenta, bi temu rekel, in umetniškega vodjo, maestra Marka Letonjo, ki se je na veselje vseh nas kljub izjemno natrpanemu urniku tako lepo odzval našemu vabilu. Novost, torej ta uvodni koncert v koncertno sezono Slovenske filharmonije, je posledica večjih drugih dejavnikov. Z njim bi v prvi vrsti radi gostili maestra Marka Letonja, v drugi vrsti pa nekoliko bolj pompozno, smelo, drzno začeli našo novo koncertno sezono, ki se običajno začenja šele konec septembra z prvim abonmajskim koncertom, tokrat pa že na samem začetku nove sezone z zelo, bi rekel, udarnim programom brez solista. Solist bo tokrat orkester, ki ga bo vodil Marko Letonja. Torej, koncert je zasnovan na 3 velikih simfoničnih delih, zgodnje romantičnega, pozno romantičnega obdobja in pa 20. stoletja. Več o programu bom prepustil oba oziroma v 4 abonmajske cikluse, oba simfonična, oranžni in modri abonma, v vokalni abonma in pa študentski abonma. Poleg teh ciklusov Slovenska filharmonija prireja še festival filharmonične baročne glasbe, ki se bo tokrat začel že v mesecu decembru in prevesil v novo leto. V januarju pa začenja z novim festivalom, ki smo ga poimenovali v novo leto z novo glasbo. Začetek bo 10. januarja, ko bo orkester izvedel skladbo Alavo, skladba Vita Žuraja. Skladba je bila premierno izvedena lani novembra v Berlinu kot nagrada berlinskih filharmonikov ob prestižni nagradi Klaudija Bada, ki jo prejel Vito Žuraj. Tokrat bomo izvedli revidirano verzijo te skladbe. Po vrsti drugih simfoničnih, vokalnih in komornih koncertov pa se bo festival zaključil z, upam, da to lahko že povem, gospod direktor, se bo zaključil v sodelovanju s festivalom Ljubljana, in sicer kot odprtje zimskega festivala Ljubljana, ki bo tokrat nekoliko drugače programsko obarvan. Tako, toliko o tem, zdaj pa prepuščam besedo našemu gostu, maestru Marku Letonju.
Dobar dan vsem skupaj. Jaz sem zelo vesel, da v tem krogu so sami domači obrazi z Laibachi smo sodelovali še leta, da je bilo 97, smo delali en koncert skupaj v otvoritvi Meseca kulture in ta koncert je zaradi različnih stvari meni ostal zelo, se mi je zdelo, da je bil eden od mogoče res najbolj kontroverznih dogodkov, ki sem jih jaz v svoji, ne vem, 32-letni karieri kadarkoli imel priliko dirigirati. In moram reči, da zdaj po tem, ko je od tega zdaj minilo že pravzaprav več kot 20 let, se tudi tega koncerta še zmeraj zelo dobro spomnim in se mi še zmeraj zdi, da je prav, da smo ta koncert naredili. Čeprav vem, da je bilo mnenje publike takrat zelo razdeljeno, ampak o tem, o preteklosti se zdaj nima smisla pogovarjati, pač pa je samo, me zelo veseli, da smo v tej zasedbi skupaj z Darkom in s Klemnom, pa seveda z Janijem, da imam to možnost malo na kratko predstaviti ta program. Program je bil koncipiran, s Klemnom sva zelo dost razmišljala o tem, kaj narediti na tem, ker je pač to novum, tega koncerta kot otvoritve obeh sezon Slovenske filharmonije v celi zgodovini Slovenske filharmonije, mislim, da ni bilo nikdar. In zato smo razmišljali marsikaj. Hoteli smo najprej od začetka razmišljali, da bi izvajali skladbe častnih članov orkestra, ampak te skladbe so bile dostikrat tudi na programu in bi se program tudi križal z drugimi koncerti in smo pol od tega šli stran in sva se s Klemnom pač dogovorila, da bomo delali program, v katerem bomo v prvi plan postavili orkester. In to s 3 reprezentančnimi skladbami, ki jih vsej prvo in tretje seveda publika, tudi široka publika, verjetno zelo dobro pozna. Vmes je pa skladba Ligeti atmosfer. Zakaj? Jaz sem dostikrat delal programe, v katerem sem uporabljal skladbe Georgea Ligetija, tudi zaradi tega, ker preprosto meni je ta komponist zelo, se mi zdi, da je eden od najvažnejših komponistov v preteklem 20. stoletju in se mi zdi, da je njegova glasba, da mora biti več na odru, zato se trudim dati te kolikor je možno v programe in to meni zmerom skladbe Ligetija, meni zmerom sodijo nekako to ogledalo. Meni se zdi, da je to, da v teksturi njegove glasbe, kjer pravzaprav ne gre ne za ritem, ne za melodijo, tudi na koncu koncev ne za harmonijo z izredkimi izjemami, gre preprosto za ene zvočne svetove, tako kot je tudi skladba, ima naslov Atmosfere, je seveda in kot tak ene vrste monolit. In zdaj monolit sem uporabil namerno, zato ker vi veste, tisti, ki vam je jasno, da je tudi Stanley Kubrick, ki je imel izredno pretanjen čut ne samo, da je delal filme, ki so brez napak, kot mi vsi vemo, ne. In tudi Odiseja 2001 v vesolju je film, ki nima napake za moj laični pogled. Je imel pa tudi izreden posluh za to, katero glasbo uporabiti kot zvočno kuliso, in v tem filmu glasba seveda ni več samo zvočna kulisa, ampak je bolj ali manj tudi pravzaprav protagonist, tisti, ki nosi vse atmosfere, tista, ki nosi vse atmosfere tega filma. No, in tako se je ta skladba znašla v sredini programa. Zanimivo je bilo, da smo začeli pravzaprav z Ligetijem, ne. Običajno bi človek si izmislil, da bo najprej se zmenimo, bomo naredili fantastično simfonijo, potem bomo pa ostali del programa zraven nekako namontirali. Tukaj smo se zmenili, da bo Ligeti na sredini programa, in potem seveda logična izbira je skladba Tako je govoril Zaratustra Richarda Straussa, ki je seveda tudi uporabljena v istem filmu. Jaz ne bom skrival dejstva, da je tudi to bila inspiracija za ta program. To seveda nič ni novega, to ni zdaj prvič, to mislim, da je bilo v preteklosti že dostikrat uporabljeno. Mogoče bo na koncertu malo presenečenje to, da bosta te dve skladbi šle ena v drugo brez pavze. In to je tudi mogoče, da jaz ne mislim zdaj nobenih filozofskih predavanj, posebej zato, ker nisem tudi ne filozof in bi bilo to popolnoma deplasirano, če bi se jaz zdaj ukvarjal s filozofijo, ampak če se človek ukvarja z Nietzschejem in Straussom, se temu ne da izogniti. Zato je tudi nujno, da na koncu, da samo eno stvar opozorim, na koncu skladbe Also sprach Zarathustra Strauss pravzaprav zastavi vprašanje nesmrtnosti in torej sanjanja o nesmrtnosti, ali je boljše, ali nam preostane na koncu življenja, ali je boljše akceptirati dejstvo, da je naše življenje se bo končalo in da je torej smrtnost nujna posledica življenja, ali je boljše sanjati sanje o nesmrtnosti, ne boljše, ampak ali je ta druga alternativa bolj zanimiva. Čeli in kontrabasi na koncu igrajo 3 znamenite picikate na noti C. Ti 3 picikati so sanje o nesmrtnosti. In iz tega se potem gremo mi direktno v atmosfere, kjer seveda Kubrick na vprašanje življenja in smrti na Zemlji da popolnoma čisto svoje drugo videnje, ne. Torej njegovo videnje je popolnoma drugo. In za mene je bilo samo zanimivo to, da je v zvočni shemi, v samem zvoku, v prvih 2 skladb, ta zveza med koncem Zaratustre in začetkom Ligetija pravzaprav izjemno logična. In to se bo na koncertu tudi, jaz upam, slišalo, ko bomo šli z ene skladbe v drugo. V drugem delu smo pa izbrali potem eno zelo znano, ampak kljub temu reprezentančno skladbo s katerim se orkester lahko, to je showpiece za orkester. In s to skladbo ki v nekak programskem smislu seveda nima nobene posebne zveze s prvim delom, ne, tudi nismo iskali tega, ampak sem samo preprosto iskal 2 skladbi, ki bi bile približno enako, 2 dela, ki bi bila približno enako težka, in tako je nastal ta program. Jaz se zelo veselim sodelovanja z Orkestrom Slovenske filharmonije, z njim sem začel leta 1987 na prvem koncertu in sem tudi potem, to je bil tudi moj prvi orkester, s katerim sem sodeloval, zato je tudi zdaj po 15 letih nesodelovanja s slovenskim, v 14 letih tam nekje nesodelovanja s Slovensko filharmonijo, seveda meni v posebno čast, da so me kolegi Slovenske filharmonije, in tu gre posebej zahvala seveda Klemnu Hvali, ki je ideator tega koncerta, da smo ta koncert potem, kljub temu, da je bilo res, kot je Klemen že omenil, težko realizirati zaradi mojih časovnih limitov, smo to kljub temu potem uspeli narediti in se tega koncerta, kot rečeno, že res zelo veselim.
Hvala lepa. Mogoče kakšno vprašanje za gospoda Hvalo ali gospoda Letonjo? Če temu ni tako, nadaljujemo. Zdaj bomo seveda nadaljevali v angleščini, upam, da vam to ne predstavlja nobenega problema. So I would like to welcome warmly Mr. Honeck and Mr. Reyes from Concertgebouw Orchestra. As you know, Maestro Manfred Honeck will replace Daniele Gatti on tonight's concerts. And of course, it's not first time that Concertgebouw is here. I think it's the third time already. Yes, in the fourth time already, as you see. So I just would like to give the floor to Mr. Jan Roes to speak about this year issues and this year program, please.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here. I remember a concert in 2014 with Maris Janssens and Jean-Yves Thibaudet. And in 2016 we were also involved in your festival with Daniele Gatti and was part of the RCO Meets Europe project. We played side by side with young talents from Slovenia, like we did 2 days ago in Cyprus, and the next month also in the Baltic states and Scandinavia. And I was just doing some research. We played also in 2002 in Ljubljana, but it was not involved with the festival. It was in March. The program today is completely what we plan to play here today, and we are very grateful that Maestro Manfred Honeck took the complete program like we planned. Maybe Manfred can talk about the program, but I think it's a strong combination between Weber, Berg, Bruckner. It's a line sort of between fathers and sons in music. I think it's important we are playing regular in all the regions of Europe. To finalize my statement, I think it's symphonic music is one of the most important parts of our heritage in Europe. And also the program, it's always a reaction of interaction. We have 25 nationalities in the orchestra, and that's the reason we try to promote Europe, not only with the music we play, but also to be proud about the heritage in Europe. And I remember myself, but I was not preparing what I was saying the next 60 seconds. But when I'm here in Ljubljana, in 85, I was member and the chairman of the sort of Flemish youth orchestra. I'm not Dutch, I'm from Belgium. And I was playing the first flute, and I was the chairman of the youth orchestra. And we were playing also in Ljubljana, I think in the festival. So it's a big history. It was before the Iron Curtain fell down. And my birthday was here. I became 26 years in Ljubljana. I never forget this. And we had inspirational conversation 2 years ago. And again, it's fantastic to be here with fantastic public who really is not snobbish, I can say this. When we play on many important festivals, you feel immediately what is the motivation to listen to music. And also every orchestra and every conductor feels, I think, the interaction with the public. And we are looking forward to play again here this evening.
Thank you indeed. Thank you very much. Please, Maestro Honeck.
Well, I'm not sure whether it's allowed in this country to speak German as an Austrian. I hope they forgive me that I have to suffer with my bad English now. I must gratulate this fantastic festival. When I look through the program, it's actually impressive. What you do here is fantastic, actually. It's because you introduce music which is not usual. You introduce opera music, you do musically, you do ballet, you do everything what is connected with the art. I think that's actually fantastic and great. And I'm so happy because when you as a conductor visits different festivals in summertime, you always see what is the specific of a festival. You know, when of course you have proms, you have the Salzburg Festival of Lucerne, and you have the traditional festival. We have new festivals, and I think what you do here for a long time is something special. I'm very, very, very happy about that. And thankful that I can come back here to Ljubljana after having visited with the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra some years ago with Anse Vermutter, now doing surprisingly and here a concert with this fantastic orchestra, with the Concertgebouw Orchestra. It's an honor to be here and make this special program. You're wondering, this program is made by Daniele, and I think it is a fantastic program. It's a fantastic program whenever these pieces have to do something with scandals. And I think that's so good to see now, more than 100 years later, how the world changed. The musical world accept now pieces which were actually demonstrative, forbidden, so to say. And when you look on 1913 in this famous Skandalkonzert, or what they call in Viennese Watschenkonzert, because there were the Altenberg Lieder was performed there. There were Webern, the 6 pieces performed there, Kindertotenlieder. They could not be performed because the people stood up and tried to attack the musicians, and some people had to protect Mr. Schönberg, who was also attended. And one of these was, by the way, Gustav Mahler. No, excuse me, not Gustav Mahler, was the people around him, around the pupils of Schönberg. And the same happens actually with Bruckner's Third Symphony, which was in the beginning absolutely not accepted. In this concert in 1877 in Musikverein, Bruckner himself conducted this, his symphony. It was like that people went out of the hall, and they did not accept anything of him, except Gustav Mahler, who wrote and piano score of this symphony. They knew exactly, those who were there and the specific, they knew what fantastic music it is. Now you hear this music more than 100 years here, and I'm personally so excited that I can do, even if it's not my program, and I have to thank Daniele that he do these fantastic programs. It is great to make this music happen here in Ljubljana, that special music of my home country. Bruckner himself means a lot to me, because I believe that Bruckner himself is not a composer who traditionally is regarded as an organ player and with a symphonic structure, with the same way of composing, block composing. I want to a little bit, especially in the interpretation, also look a little bit behind that, what Bruckner was on the other side. That means that he was a Volksmusik player. He played viola and violin, and he played a lot of weddings and parties in that time. He knew all the old Johann Strauss, Father Johann Strauss, the Lange, the old Schubert music. He played it himself. So for me, it's not a surprise, even in the Third Symphony, and I think every symphony has something typical traditional Austrian dances. So you will hear things. Now sometimes Bruckner doesn't write this down, how to play it. That's the same later when Gustav Mahler wrote his symphonies. He exactly, very clearly wrote down how to do these traditions. In the time of Bruckner, it was not yet necessary to write it down, because the musicians and the people knew how to do it. For example, a Landler, they knew exactly what kind of type of Landler it has to be played. which tempo it has, and which kind of rubato. Viennese music is always rubato music, so which kind of rubato you have to play. They knew it. Later on, Mahler, and you see the scores, Mahler as a conductor has written everything down because he did not trust anymore that the musicians know these things. There was a lot of confusion already 30 years later. So I'm looking forward to make this wonderful third symphony where he's still looking a little bit ahead. We now have a fantastic position. We know his seventh, his eighth, and ninth symphony, his symphonies which came after the third. We know them and we love them. But the third symphony is actually the beginning of that, what we believe is the great, great Bruckner. I still believe there are some passages where he's looking ahead a little bit. It's already somehow, you hear on some accords, the Ninth Symphony already, the disharmony, or I would not say disharmony, but the very 20th century harmony. But everything is, you hear that already in the Third Symphony. And some passages you see he is searching a little. We play the third version of that. When Bruckner wrote this piece, 1873, he was presenting it to some students and they condemned it, they didn't like it. So he rewrote it, and 1877, the second version was then performed, and as I said before, people didn't like it either. But later on, it got a very, very big success when Richter, this famous supporter of Anton Bruckner, conducted with the Vienna Philharmonic the symphony again. Then it got really the big success, 1889. This is the version what we present today. It's a pleasure to make music with this fantastic orchestra, and looking forward for making music in this wonderful festival.
Thank you very much, Maestro, and very welcome to Ljubljana, also to the Mahler city. He was conducted here 1881, 1882, as you know. So, and thank you to conclude the Ljubljana 66th Festival edition. So, we will continue press conference with some other issues. So if I know you have to rest and you had rehearsal, so if you wish, of course, before maybe some questions for Maestro Honeck or for Maestro Lettonia, because no questions. So thank you very much. Marian Zlobec, one question, please. Marian, please take the mic.
Ja, če sem dobro slišal, bi lahko vse tri koncerte, ki so pred nami, v nekem smislu povezovali z zgodovinskimi škandal koncerti. Ne? Gospod Lettonia je lepo se spominjal koncerta, ki je bil izjemno uspešen, to je bila otvoritvena prireditev v Cankarjevem domu ob Evropskem mesecu kulture. Ta koncert je bil izjemen, jaz sem ga, bi rekel, postavil nad vse koncerte, ki otvarjajo Salzburški festival po svoji drznosti, po svoji vsebini, po idejnem sporočilu Mlakarja, ki je tam govoril in strašil celoten auditorij, po decibelih. Najprej je šel ven, se mi zdi, nadškof ali kardinal Rode, potem za njim gostujoči predsednik Estonije, seveda, ker je šel on, je moral iti tudi Milan Kučan kot predsednik Republike Slovenije.
Nista šla ven. Ne estonski predsednik, ne Kučan nista šla, sta ustrajala do kraja.
Ne, to ni res.
Ne, ker jih imamo na posnetkih, smo pač
Vsekakor so začeli ljudje odhajati iz dvorane.
Pač je prišel avstrijski diplomatski zbor ven, to pa res.
No pa dobro. To je pravzaprav tisto, kar bi lahko rekli škandal koncert na slovenskem oziroma za slovenske razmere. Gospod dirigent je zelo lepo povedal o škandal koncertu na Dunaju.
Can you switch to English, please?
Yes, it's difficult to explain all. We are talking about 3 scandal concerts. one first was in Ljubljana in 97, was the opening of the month of European culture in Ljubljana, when was performed with conductor Marco Lettonia, one piece of Laibach, connection with our orchestra, and was there our Cardinal Rodet, and he left the auditorium and so on. Second Skandal concert was in Vienna, Wiener Philharmoniker and Musikverein, and the third, in fact, we can expect now after 2 days in Križanke with the Laibach. So what is the main reason? Good music is always scandal music, because we are not tolerant. Which are your experience, or for Marco and for you? We are tolerant with the art, or we are not?
Thank you. Please, Maestro Honeck.
Well, you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Well, we are humans, and humans tend to be to have different temperature, different temperaments, and art is sometimes called to be a little bit different than normal. And if you are against the mainstream, and our society is always asking sometimes for mainstream. You accept things which people like to hear. And that was in time of Bach the same, it was in time of Mozart the same, Beethoven. Can you imagine how scandal this Fifth Symphony, even Mr. Karl Maria von Weber wrote an article about the Seventh Symphony of Beethoven. Now Beethoven should go to the madhouse. He's completely ill. And it happens all the time. Now, Seventh Beethoven is not a problem anymore. We love it. So it's every time when artists are writing something against the mainstream, some people get really hot, some not. Some like it, some not. And I would say, I think it is good to present something which is unusual. In my program, the music looked very much in the 20th century. They could not understand it. This is not something where I would put the finger on these people. These people just simply didn't understand it. They didn't understand how progressive it was. Now, shouldn't we artists not present these pieces? I think we should, even if the people don't understand. I think it is our profession. I think it is we artists, we have actually the challenge also not only to perform pieces which you like to hear and which then I think I would immediately go to play Johann Strauss every day. Or if, don't misunderstand, for me Johann Strauss is fantastic. I really like it. It's, I think, one of the best. But we have to challenge our audience. And also another thing which for me personally is very important, let the artists be personalities. Personality means sometimes to be different, sometimes which you don't understand. And that means also that the society, and I'm very happy to live actually in this society, because I think we are nowadays much more tolerant than it might be centuries ago, that we want to try to understand it much more. But I think it is our duty to present things where you go out of the hall and the people think, what does it mean? What is that? Is that a music I never heard? A music I don't understand yet now. But how often did we also experience that 10 years later, the same people heard the piece again, now they loved it. And that happened with Gustav Mahler, that happened with other people, and I'm glad that we can take the risk to do that. So, Skandal concerts, they are normal. They are here for us, and we call it Skandalkonzert. In fact, it's sometimes the art which looks much more in the future, and we are challenged to look and to think about what is this, what is that, why is that, what character does it have. And I think it's for us good to be tolerant and accept that.
Thank you. Maestro Honeck, thank you. Maestro Lettonia.
Just a short answer. I completely agree with Maestro Honeck, what he just answered. I think it's our duty to play music of our times, and this music of our times is very often combined also with scandals. If we, Manfred said one thing about the 7th of Beethoven, we all remember, we heard about how big the scandal with the premiere of the Sacre du Printemps was at those times. It was probably the biggest scandal in the classical music. And I just finished a season with the Strasbourg Philharmonic where we combined the 9th Symphony of Beethoven, and we called it Beethoven Plus. And I was attacked by the press heavily in France because I combined the symphonies with Beethoven with music by Peter Oetwösch, by Magnus Lindberg. We used a piece for trombone and orchestra called Mandrake in the Corner. With the 5th Symphony of Beethoven, where you have the first appearance of the trombones in a symphony, and we used also Thomas Adès. We used Totentanz together with the 3rd Symphony of Beethoven. So this program, they said, in other words, you sold us all the music that we don't want to hear, but we will come to the concert because it's you put it in the middle of the concert. And I said that is exactly, because if I put it in the beginning of the concert, the risk that you're not going to come in the beginning, that you're going to come after 15 minutes, is for me too big. That's why I put always one symphony of Beethoven in the beginning, a piece by a modern composer, and of course I was very careful with the choice of soloist and with the choice of program. And this, I have to say, after the whole season, we had another press conference where basically all your colleagues from France actually had to congratulate, because we not only gained we not only kept our subscribers, our usual or normal audience, but we got a lot of new audience who came exclusively just to listen to Peter Oetwösch speaking drums, or to Magnus Lindberg, or to the Totentanz of Thomas Adès. I think it's our duty to do that. And if the concert is a scandal and divides the opinion, it is way better than the concert which goes smoothly and we're all happy and we go home. I absolutely prefer to divide the opinion of the audience than just to please the taste of the audience. I think it's our duty, and I think the program was concepted. It's another example of both concerts. I'm very happy that in the ending of Festival Ljubljana, we actually have two concerts, one by the great Concertgebouw Orchestra and the other one by the Slovenian Philharmonic, which are not so far away thematically one from another. Without knowing that we are going to do this, I think we kind of succeeded to present a similar program. So that's, from my opinion, about your question, Marian. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maestro Lettonia. Maybe I could say something about attacks in last 26 years, but it would be too long. And even before in Opera House, when I was there, director. But I would like to proceed the word to Mr. Reis.
Very short. I agree your words, and I think it's one of the purposes or the mission of festivals, because you have hundreds of festivals, and sometimes I think they play too safe, and then it seems like a series of subscription series of the season. I think festival has to search borders or to cross the borders. And I remember a true story of Leonard Bernstein. It's a Bernstein year. When he was the chief conductor of New York Philharmonic, he also programmed well-known pieces and new pieces. And so it was published, but then without announcement, he changed the order. So everybody was trying to come after the intermission to Beethoven 5, but he changed, so he played first this Beethoven 5, and then all the rich people were on dinner, and then they came, but so he was playing games with the subscribers, just to educate them. And I think that's also our mission. Not like teachers, but just art is always dangerous. Otherwise, it's just consummation of evergreens.
Yeah, thank you indeed. We will come to education also to the last part of this press conference when I will speak about our neighbors. But before that, Ivan, please.
I would just maybe like to continue Marco's thought here. I think tolerance is fine, but too much tolerance is killing art. I think it's really good that sometimes people react as they do, and scandals, of course. I mean, imagine a life without scandals, it would be really totally boring. Our concert is not, in principle, going to be very scandalous. We are, because there's no bishop in the audience, and I think no president also, hopefully. But I have to say that there is a little bit scandal already connected to the version that we did, our version of Sinfonia Sacra of Andrzej Panufnik, because Andrzej Panufnik wrote this piece in 1963. It was dedicated to millennium of Polish independence, statehood, Catholicism, etc., etc. It is based on the medieval Polish anthem Bogorodzica, which is very important. Obviously, it's like a prayer, and we did something that was not. We added something to our interpretation of Panufnik, something that was not expected, obviously, by nobody, but we added the famous text by General Jaruzelski. General Jaruzelski has proclaimed the military, how do you call it, the state of, the putsch in 1980, as far as you might remember, on the radio. And Panufnik, of course, and Jaruzelski were biggest enemies, basically. But they were talking about the same thing. And in this famous Jaruzelski speech, Jaruzelski is a hated figure in Poland, and Panufnik also hated him. He escaped from Poland also because of Jaruzelski. But there are some interpretations, obviously, that Jaruzelski actually saved Poland from the much heavier friendly boots of Russians in 1980, when he himself proclaimed the military putsch, not military putsch, but the revolution, yeah, whatever, I can't. But the text that Jaruzelski put out in public is actually a prayer. It's a prayer, it's a classical prayer. Like, dear friends, dear brothers and sisters, Polish, blah, 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 we have to step together, we have to raise we have to cut our needs, step together, save Poland, etc., etc. Something which is something which you pretty much hear nowadays in Poland also, because Poland is recreating its grandness, its kingdomness, to a certain extent. But also there was not much difference between, of course, Jaruzelski's narration and Panufnik's narration. And we also added in the end, in the third part, we also added John Paul II, who was also Polish Pope, one part of his prayer. So it's kind of really interesting to follow this narration of our interpretation of Sinfonia Sacra, which we called Polonia. So on this point, it might be a little bit of scandalous, of course. And I have to say that we already got reactions from Andrzej Panufnik's widow, Lady Panufnik, who totally opposed, and from his publishers, Bosie and Hawkes, who totally opposed our interpretation. They actually wanted us to take out Jaruzelski, etc., etc., which, of course, maybe we won't allow to use these recordings on some album, but on this festival we are still going to perform ourselves, as we also did in Poland, in Lublin. And it was really, a really good perception, also quite, of course, intolerant at some point, but also tolerant.
Thank you. Thank you, my dear guests of Ljubljana Festival, artists, personalities. This is the last press conference we offered to our audience and to our journalists. I would like to thank you indeed. I will continue now with some local issues, but if you wish, of course, you are kindly invited to stay. If you would like to rest or you have rehearsal, of course, also it's up to you. But thank you indeed for coming to Ljubljana, to everybody, and be welcome again. Maybe we do photo together. Before I continue, can we do photo together? Yes. Yes. Alako. Pridi, Klemen, pridi. Kar stopaj,
Ciao.
Torej, za vse izjave, ki jih želite, seveda so vam na voljo tudi ostali naši prostori od naših gostov. Jaz pa nadaljujem še z zadnjo temo današnje konference, to je streha v Križankah. Predtem samo še nekaj informacij. V jeseni bomo seveda imeli mlade virtuoze, ki se začnejo 18. oktobra. Program je že narejen in bo tudi vam kmalu dostopen. Trajali bodo vse do 18. aprila. Potem zimski festival med 2. in 6. februarjem v Unionski dvorani in pa slovenski glasbeni dnevi, ki bodo trajali od 4. do 12. aprila 2019. Vi imate v mapah tudi sporočilo za javnost, kjer so vsi ti podatki, o katerih sem govoril na začetku novinarske konference, jasno zapisani, od tega, koliko je bilo nastopajočih, potem seveda povzetek nekaterih kritik in pa tudi katere predstave in koliko jih je bilo izvedenih, 78 v celotnem poletju. Zdaj pa mi dovolite, da nekoliko osvetlim celotno dogajanje okoli strehe, glede na to, da so se pojavili netočni zapisi, da Festival Ljubljana s prijavo in zahtevo za inšpekcijo stavbe šole želi škoditi Ministrstvu za šolstvo in šport. Temu seveda ni tako. Moram povedati, da ravno nasprotno, da skupaj z Mestno občino Ljubljana želimo pri nastalem problemu pomagati, da se pojavljajo vprašanja, zakaj nismo te študije, ki jo je šola naročila v maju 2017 in jo prejela, jaz jo imam tukaj, tako da 3 izvode, če kdo želi izvod, ga lahko dobi, zakaj nismo uporabili pri projektiranju. Enostavno zato, ker je nismo imeli. Imel jo je ravnatelj šole gospod Markl, imelo je Ministrstvo za šolstvo, mi o tem nismo bili seznanjeni. Nas so o tem seznanili na sestanku 5. marca letos, torej 1 leto kasneje, ko smo mi že zdavnaj začeli z gradnjo, ne s projektom, na sestanku, ki ga je sklical direktor direktorata gospod Iztok Žigon. Na tem sestanku so nam tole predstavili. Seveda so nam s tem povzročili ogromno poslovno škodo, ker smo izgubili celotno sezono in še kaj. No, ampak na tem sestanku so bili prisotni torej Gregor Markel, ravnatelj srednje šole, gospod Iztok Žigon, generalni direktor direktorata za investicije, gospa Mira Koren-Mlačnik, vodja sektorja za investicije in predšolsko in šolsko infrastrukturo in gospa Maja Skale, sekretarka. Zakaj to govorim? Zato, ker ti ljudje so vedeli leto dni, v kakšnem stanju je stavba te šole in niso ukrepali. Še zdaj poteka pouk v tej šoli. Kaj, če se kaj zgodi? Ne razumem tega, da s tako lahkoto nosijo takšno velikansko odgovornost. Tako da precej lahko miselno bi rekel. No, ampak potem naprej. Odgovoril sem na vprašanje, kdaj smo to zvedeli. Potem pa na torej podtikanje, da želimo s tem spraviti šolo iz stavbe in prevzeti stavbo, seveda povem, da si Festival Ljubljana že 25 let prizadeva, da bi se šola preselila in da o tem že skozi potekajo dogovori in da bi jim bile že večkrat ponujene nadomestne lokacije, tako na Roški cesti, kakor drugje. Da tudi šola deluje na 3 lokacijah, da je premajhna, da je zaradi sprememb, kar tudi piše v tem poročilu, ki so bile storjene leta 90 v tem kompleksu, torej statična slika postala še slabša. In seveda je potrebno povedati tudi to, da so potekali ves čas resni pogovori med Ministrstvom za šolstvom in Mestno občino Ljubljana. Konkretno med ministrico, gospo Majo Makovec Brenčič in ljubljanskim županom Zoranom Jankovićem. Ko smo po 5. marcu izvedeli, kakšna je situacija, smo seveda predlagali rešitve. Mestna občina Ljubljana ne more obnavljati objekta, ki je v lasti Ministrstva za šolstvo. Ne more. Zato je župan Janković predlagal, da se sklene pogodba, v katerem se naredi prenos šole na Mestno občino Ljubljana oziroma Festival Ljubljana, kjer se omogoči 5-letno brezplačno uporabo, dokler se ne zgradi do konca rok, kjer je 6000 kvadratnih metrov prostora, ki bi bil namenjen šoli za oblikovanje in fotografijo. Zakaj tega noben ni povedal medijem na Ministrstvu za šolstvo, ne vem. Seveda na to niso pristali, niso nam izdali soglasja za gradnjo strehe, češ, da je, res predlagam, da si tole preberete, da je statika slaba, je pa dovolj dobra za to, da je noter ne vem koliko 500 ali 700 dijakov. Nerazumljivo. Ko smo jim hoteli pomagati z rešitvijo, je niso sprejeli. Ampak mi še skozi nimamo strehe. Streha v Križankah je pa v javnem interesu. In mislim, da jo je treba zgraditi. Križanke so brez strehe obglavljene. In jaz bom storil vse, da streha bo. Ravno tako tudi seveda verjetno prav gotovo naš lastnik. Zdaj pa še nekaj o tem, torej prebrali smo lahko, da je ravnatelj storil vse, kar lahko stori za odpravo teh momentov, ki vplivajo na slabo statiko šole. Mi od tega nismo opazili ničesar. Tudi če bi to storil, potem bi nam oni kasneje lahko izdali soglasje za izgradnjo strehe. Pa ga niso. So pa naredili nekaj drugega, a lahko prosim za slajde, v petek na koncertu Vlada Kreslina. Tukaj so fotografije in pa tudi del posnetka gospoda Platiše, hvala lepa, ki nam je dovolil uporabo, kjer boste natančno videli, da so v času koncerta v šoli gorele vse luči. Gorele so tudi po koncertu. Motile so koncert, v šoli ni bilo nikogar nismo mogli priklicati, Šola je bila zaklenjena in luči so gorele celo noč. Pojavlja se vprašanje, po tistem, ko so vedeli, da je šola statično problematična in niso ukrepali, se pojavlja tudi vprašanje, kakšni so ljudje, ki vzgajajo te otroke, ki potem poskušajo motiti prireditev s takšnimi prijemi. In seveda kurijo elektriko, ki jo plačujemo davkoplačevalci, ki niso pripravljeni na nobene pogovore, ki samo se krčevito oklepajo tega prostora, ki je neprimern in seveda motijo javni interes na področju kulture, pa tudi izobraževanja. Nezaslišano. Mi bomo seveda zaradi tega ravnanja sprožili tudi ustrezne zgodbe preko naše odvetniške pisarne na ustreznih organih. Prav tako zaradi povzročanja splošne nevarnosti. 4 strani ministrstva bodo prav gotovo v tem udeleženi, saj so vedeli, oziroma 3, pa gospod Markl, saj so vedeli 1 leto za to in niso ukrepali. Sprožili bomo pa tudi odškodninsko tožbo, zaradi tega, ker so nas seznanili z stvarmi, ki so v tem poročilu in so ga dobili 9. maja 2017, šele 5. marca 2018, ko smo mi že bili globoko v gradnji. Toliko, so kakšno vprašanje mogoče. Če ni vprašanj, seveda smo vam na voljo z vsemi dokumenti, kadarkoli. Moj telefon je 041-645744, kadarkoli me lahko pokličete za karkoli v zvezi s tem. In vam bom z veseljem odgovoril. Predvsem pa mislim, da moramo narediti konec takim praksam v tej državi. Še kakšno vprašanje? Če temu ni tako, se vam zahvaljujem za vašo prijaznost, zahvaljujem se vam za vaše poročanje in vam želim dober tek, ter upam, da 3 odlične koncerte nocoj, v petek in v četrtek in v petek zvečer z imenitnimi ansambli. Najlepša hvala in nasvidenje naslednje poletje.